That's Marco D'Amico. Follow him at MN D'Amico. Read him on the daily, covering all things Montreal Canadiens for rg.org. We've got about 10 minutes here. Let's talk about some good news as it relates to Kaiden Guhle. We saw him, I think, when you're in the Cayman Islands during trade deadline week. He was spotted in Brossard. Marco, things are getting a little bit better for the Canadiens' leader on defense in Kaiden Guhle. What's the latest on the injured defenseman?
Well, he's skating around in full equipment,
Yeah.
doing line rushes, and I think that's really positive. The Canadiens haven't said anything official on when they expect him to be back, but again, he's not practicing with the team yet, so we can't say no contact jersey, but it does look like he is somewhat, in my opinion, available in my mind before the end of the season by what we can see. I think Kent Hughes kind of alluded to it in the sense that he doesn't know if Guhle would come back if the Canadiens aren't in the hunt anymore. But if they are in the hunt, players play injured all the time. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but there's no motivation like when being 1 point out of a playoff spot with 7 games left and you're at 75 to 80%.
Well, that's it. So I was going to ask you, can you create a hypothetical that with 5 games to go and the Canadiens are a point out from a playoff spot, that Kaiden Guhle says, you know what, I'm not sitting for the next game. Put me in. I need to be in there. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. I think at the end of the day, you look at a situation with Guhle and you just play it by ear, right? Like, what's the goal here? What do you want to show? What do you want to teach? What kind of a culture environment do you want to live in, right? Because, again, you have a guy like Guhle that comes back while playing injured, the adrenaline that sends into the room. And I'm not saying it's the smartest thing. I'm not the doctor. I'm not seeing the gravity of the situation. But if there's even minimal risk,
yeah, I agree.
Don't you think he's going to try? Don't you think the team is going to be absolutely energized for those last couple of games? And I think, again, within the scheme of still being in the playoff hunt, if they're like 5-6 points out with 5 games left, like, call it a season. It's not worth it.
Agreed.
But if there's, if you can inject what I believe is the club's probably number 2, number 3 defenseman at this point, I'm not saying that that's what he is vis-a-vis the rest of the NHL. Maybe, a number 3 would be fair.
Yeah.
But that's a huge boost because right now I think you can make the argument that the defense pairings aren't very balanced ever since he went down with an injury. So I think it would add a lot of mobility. It would add a lot of good rush defense, which has really kind of ailed the Canadiens over the last little bit.
Yeah.
So it depends to me. I think, like I said, it's maybe 2 weeks down the line, we'll have to reevaluate. But the fact that he's already on the ice and skating, I think is a very good thing considering how dramatic his injury was painted by some.
And again, self-inflicted in the sense, that awkward collision, he falls down, the blade lacerates his quadriceps.
Freak accidents, I would say.
So that's it. So I think it's unfair, but it's also the reality, right? Like, it's unfair if I go, Marco D'Amico, the Canadiens' Kaiden Guhle is an injury-prone defenseman. Yes, he's missed substantial time, multiple times, but, like, can we call him injury-prone when it's self-inflicted? Like, he's hurt, he's injured, he isn't playing, he isn't available, therefore...
Definitely... It's difficult to say because it's the style in which he plays that makes him more prone to those injuries. And also, and again, I'll say this like specifically, I think he's one of the most unlucky players in the NHL when it comes to health, because we think back to last year getting boarded, against I think it was Nikita Kucherov. Like, I think the thing that Guhle doesn't do well, in my honest opinion, and he plays it in such an aggressive way, and he does not protect himself well enough. And I think that is, to me, the problem. Like, you think about that borderline interference call earlier this season where he was basically checked into the board shoulder first and missed a couple of games because of that. Like, you could have protected yourself a little better, right? Like, you could have, and I think that's the key, right? Is like self-awareness on the ice and thinking about the longevity of your career. And unfortunately, that's the thing with Kaiden Guhle. You'd love to see him play an 82-game season, but I mean, that's definitely not happening this year. And last year he played, I believe, 71, so he kind of came close. But I think, especially if the Canadiens want to start building a team that could be dependable and sturdy enough for the playoffs, I think it's going to require Kaiden Guhle to maybe change his awareness on the ice. And I think that'll help him long term. That'll help the organization. But you really see, and you really have seen over the last couple of weeks, what not having Kaiden Guhle in the lineup can do, because it has really destabilized them on the PK. It's destabilized them at 5-on-5, both in transition and in defending on the rush. So
correct. Look at that Seattle game, that heat map of the Seattle game, how victimized the Canadiens were in front of the net, where Seattle had umpteen scoring chances. That I think that, to me, can paint a picture of what your words are saying about Kaiden Guhle's importance, Marco.
But what I will also add is, with injury comes opportunity. And I feel like a player, for example, like Jayden Struble, has been very dependable next to another rookie. Well, I mean, they're both not, he's not a rookie anymore in Struble, but next to a rookie like Lane Hudson, that pairing has been fantastic. In fact, ironically, it was the Carrier-Matheson pairing. And then, in another game, I think they had a 0% WAR effect, but the Savard-Jackeye pairing, to me, the most consistent pairing has been Hudson and Struble, which is ironic. And this is where I say, if we were able to maybe balance the roster by having a Guhle in the lineup, I think the Canadiens probably would have maybe an extra point or two over the last 2 weeks.
Who do you see as his, in my mind, right? Like, I've got Reinbacher Hudson as a pair moving forward in the future. Who's Guhle's for you?
Right now, Carrier. Right now, Carrier. Perfect world, the Canadiens make a trade for a true top 4 right shot defenseman. And then you have
so you don't see Logan Mailloux being that guy. You don't see Logan Mailloux eventually.
Eventually, maybe, but not like this is the mistake that Montreal Canadiens organizations have made time and time again. Is you're trying to stick a prospect into a role they're not ready for, and then you burn them.
Right.
I would rather a trade be made for a bona fide top 4 right shot defenseman that can hold it down, like the Canadiens did with Carrier now, but just maybe a level above.
Right.
And then you allow Mailloux to grow into that. I think Mailloux offensively is an absolute NHL player right now.
100%.
Top four offensive defenseman, no problem. But he'll get burned defensively, and you need to have the right guy on the other side. So a Mailloux Guhle pairing is interesting, but it would require more maturity on Mailloux's time. More reps. Look how long it took a guy like Jackeye to get relatively stable.
Oh my God. Correct. And he's still trying.
Yeah, but that and again, that I think that has more to do, with no disrespect to the player, but I think David Savard's time with the Montreal Canadiens is evidently coming to an end. I think he's very close, and even, I think the Canadiens are allowing him to finish out his contract with the team, and that makes a ton of sense. Yep. But right now, he's not necessarily the best asset for them on the right side, and I think it shows. So a guy like Jackeye, for example, who needs that level of stability on the right side, well, that's kind of the issue. So I could see it playing out. The Canadiens could throw a bone to Logan Mailloux, like they could use him as trade fodder this summer. Who knows?
Don't disagree.
But I think the Canadiens' biggest need, we talked about this, is a second line center. The biggest need after that is a right shot top 4 defenseman. They were able to make a smart trade when it came to Carrier. I think they need to make another one.
That's Marco D'Amico, just the best. Love having you're my favorite. You're my best asset, brother. Marco D'Amico at MN D'Amico. Well, you didn't like that? Is that too much?
I know. Too much? No. I just don't throw the franchise tag too soon.
No, not the NFL. I don't want to franchise. I want to reward you. I don't want to franchise tag you. I want you to be welcome. I want you to love being here. Marco D'Amico, I love having you. Check him out at MN D'Amico. Follow him on all your favorite socials. Check him out on rg.org. Marco, we'll see you soon. Thanks, brother.
Sounds like a plan.